Well, we know it's a business, but Disney's decided they need just a little bit more of your money. We're going to talk about that tonight. The Cake Bake Shop is finally open, and whether you're a fan of the prices or not, maybe the cake. We'll talk about all that tonight on ParksCenter. Welcome to ParksCenter for October 27th, 2024. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us and spending your Sunday night with ParksCenter. If you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. We kind of like that. Also, give us a thumbs up. We really like that. Tonight, we have a great panel of experts for you. Some of them are perfectly matched color-wise. We're going to start with Kamila. How are you?
Good. Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday.
And then Stephanie.
We're twinning sweaters. Happy Halloween.
Totally twinning. And then not twinning with outfits, but with names. It's our good friend Rob Beesmore. How are you, Rob?
Outstanding, guys. Happy to be here.
Thank you guys so much for being here as well. We appreciate it. There's a lot to talk about this week, and I want to start with the Cake Bake Shop because we've followed this thing along. It took longer to build than Tron. I don't know. It was an empty hull on the boardwalk. The ESPN club was there. They finally shut that down and then said, hey, there's this thing coming. You like cake, you're going to love this place. They posted the prices a few weeks ago. The internet blew up about how dare you charge $78 for a charcuterie board. And then just early last week, they were like, just kidding. We're not even going to have a charcuterie board. You didn't see that at all. And then they changed the prices. Our own Shannon was pretty much taking credit for the price of oat milk getting cut in half. She was like, they listened, we won, and maybe they did, but I think they just in general listened to the internet about that. And then they opened, and now they still have $25 pieces of cake. But we were talking about this pre-show, Stephanie, and you were like, I'm coming. Next time I'm there, I'm going to go and have some cake. You're excited about this place.
Yes, I'm going in November. I'm excited to go and see it. I have a lot of daughters. I have 4 daughters, and we do love a good tea, a good English tea, as my mother-in-law says. She's British. So I'm excited to go do that. Ever since they closed the one at the Rose View at the Grand Floridian, and that was a wonderful one. Why, Disney, bring that one back if you're listening. Come on. They had, Princess, Sleeping Beauty came, Briar Rose at the end. You got a princess doll that looks like her that was American Girl doll size. They had live music. It was amazing. So bring that back. In fact, they used to have one, Rob, at the Rose and Crown pub. I think it was only on Sundays. They don't do that one anymore. So thank you. Thank you at least for having the Cake Bake open. It is not exactly it doesn't look like it's just for little kids. It looks like it's clearly for adults and probably women who are there for their bridal showers and things like that too.
What? Are you crazy? Are you sure? Let's take another look at that. Obviously, this looks like the kind of place that little kids would want to hang out. It kind of looks like the living room of grandma's you're not allowed to go into a little bit. So I'm not sure I would say with kids, but it is very decadent. Rob B, the prices were a big point of contention with people on this one, but you've seen it now. There are a lot of expensive places on grounds, right? Do you think that the price point's too much here, or nothing will keep you from going though? You need your cake.
No, the price is definitely high, and it's good to hear that they heard feedback from guests about lowering the price a bit. But if every review that I've heard about the products themselves, the food themselves, has been amazing. Will I pay $10 more for a slice of cake to try it? Sure, if it's as good as people are saying it is. High quality ingredients and hopefully great service is not inexpensive. Also, when you look at the size of the servings, they're really high. So my wife and I were talking about going and getting the millionaire cake, and it's big enough for 2 people, maybe even 3, right? So I don't think maybe some of these sizes aren't designed to be single servings. And if you divide it by 2 or 3 people, it becomes much more reasonable.
Well, and it's probably meant to wow you, right? Like it's supposed to look decadent and big
Yeah.
and oversized and, too much to eat. But again, some of the prices of the pieces of cake, you're saying millionaire's cake, that seems like a mistake. They shouldn't have called it the millionaire's cake. If you've ever been, I don't know if you guys have First Watch where you are, but they have something called Millionaire's Bacon, or $1 million bacon, and it's like $5.99, which seems reasonable for something that's worth $1 million. But when it's $25 cake that's $1 million, and you're like, the jokes just start flying. Kamila, what do you think about this? And is it on your to-do list?
I mean, I feel like the interior looks gorgeous. Like, I would be so excited to dine there, honestly, regardless of the menu. The prices definitely give me a bit of pause, but I also kind of feel like if you look at where this place is lodged over there in the boardwalk area, and if you think about the prices of the boardwalk, beach club, yacht club, everything over there feels like it's very high. And so, I don't know that I feel like it's a kind of place where maybe I would want to try at least once. And I really agree with Rob of I feel like the cake slices in particular are so large, you're going to need to share that, or I don't think it's something you're going to finish in one sitting. Although the prices definitely, I think, are a little bit scary. My biggest question initially was like, who is this for? And I like Stephanie's ideas of like, if you're on a bachelorette, or I could even see this maybe at some point them adding like a high tea, menu and special dining to this, because I think that's also something that still hasn't come back to Disney World. But I'm definitely interested. I think it looks gorgeous. I feel like the reviews actually were fairly positive. And I could see it like the perfect place to brunch. So I don't know. I'm very interested. I definitely would want to try it at least once. I think the cakes all look very good, and which is a problem because at those prices, I mean, you could be spending easily $100 just trying a couple of pieces of cake. So kind of terrifying, but I'm interested. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you mentioned that our reporters bought 4 pieces of cake, and it was $93. They brought the food and the bill back to Tom, and it's like, "Here's your 4 pieces of cake. That's $93." And then there's a review on our site. You were talking about people reviewing it, and they said, "Hey, that's good. That's good cake." And I do think it's like Rob was talking about. You may spend $25 on a piece of cake, but all 3 or 4 people in your party could probably eat it, and it would probably be fine. And we could probably get into a conversation with Stephanie about what a good portion of cake would be for one human to have at a sitting. This is probably not it. Also, you shouldn't probably eat, just this as a PSA, you probably shouldn't eat an entire plate of Outback cheese fries all by yourself either. So, I mean,
Bloomin' onion.
and again, those are not cheap. I do have to ask though, Stephanie, about the merchandise. This looks like you were saying you have daughters and 4 of them. This looks like
Yes.
you are going to be buying a lot of merchandise when you go in
Oh, for
there.
sure. My
I mean, the
eight-year-old
unicorns and
all over it.
everything.
For sure.
Come on. Make sure to get me one of those unicorn hats, would you? That is
Absolutely, I
fantastic.
will. And I'll send
Yeah.
it to you.
Well, like, here's the thing too, and again, we're talking about pricing. Is that this cake bake blue shirt, is $36.99. It's just the front of it. Disney charges $29.99 right now, I believe, for their T-shirts. So even the T-shirts are a little bit more expensive here. Probably they will get that, and if they don't get it, they'll do like they did earlier, and they'll just lower the prices. Because you hardly ever hear of people lowering prices. You're probably not going to hear of them lowering prices now that it's open. So again, that's probably one of those things that they were like, let's fish a little, see what people think about this. No, not 78 for charcuterie. Okay, that's fine. Let's move on. Speaking of food, to some other options that have been updated. It's really interesting to me when they go through and they update the menus at Disney, partially because at Disney World. Partially because when I go to Disney World, I kind of always like eating the same thing. Like if I'm going to Space 220, I want the same thing that I got last time. That's kind of why I'm going there. And also, when we're talking about expensive restaurants, Space 220 was that bitter pill to swallow at first, but it's never vacant. So obviously, they knew what they were doing on those price points. But they've modified the menu. And speaking of Space 220, these were the things removed from the menu: the burrata, the risotto, the Big Tang. What that seems like a mistake. Planetary Punch, Lightyear Lemonade, or an Orion Old Fashioned. A lot of these are drinks, but they like the scallop risotto. And the carrot cake. I don't know if any of those were things that y'all were fans of, but they've removed a lot of things from menus, and I wanted to kind of talk about all of the food changes they had. They added breakfast cocktails because, for the love of God, we definitely need to have a breakfast cocktail before we go into the parks. And then also they've changed some of the menu items on the Sci-Fi and Mama Melrose restaurant menus, and we have to report to you about Mama Melrose because I'm not sure everybody goes there. So we needed to make sure you knew that there were menu changes and something for every price point. There's also been a menu change at the Blue Ribbon Corn Dogs, just a little stone's throw away from the Cake Bake Shop. So, Rob Bazemore, when you go, have you looked at any of these menus? And am I wrong on that? Like, do you want to see the menu change all the time to a place that you don't necessarily go all the time, or how do you feel about this?
I like a few staples to always be there. At the California Grill, I always want their filet mignon to be there, for instance. So I like, as long as they have some anchor staples, and then again adding some seasonal variety on top of that.
Okay, Stephanie, thoughts on all these changes?
Yeah, I completely agree with Rob. When we went to the Carthay Circle restaurant out at Disneyland, we were asking for that Brazilian bread that they used to have, and this was
Yeah.
8 years ago. And they go, "Oh, we change every season. We haven't had that in years." I'm like, "Okay," because I never get over to Disneyland, and so of course we were looking for that. And for Disney World, I kind of understand it a little bit more, but yeah, the certain things I look for every time I go, like you said at Space 220. I'm really sad that they took the salmon off, and the salmon came out in that really neat cloche with like the smoke as they opened it. It came out. It was so neat. I wish that they still had that.
Well, and again, maybe I'm just old and stodgy about the whole, like, when I go there, I want this. But the Grand Floridian Cafe, when I was a kid, had this peanut butter goober pie. It was about this tall, and it was delicious. And it was literally the best peanut butter pie I've ever had in my entire life. I've combed through like all those Disney cookbooks they put out. They've never put the recipe in that. It just kind of like sunset, disappeared, never came back. My kids rioted when the Liberty Tree stopped doing macaroni and cheese. And they added it back as an option at one point, and then they also changed it. But yeah, it was one of those, they were like, no more mac and cheese, and they were like, why did we even come to Disney World at all? What's the point? So, sometimes they change things and they're for the better. But I obviously, for me, if I don't get to go to a place all the time, I'm not really excited about seasonal menu changes or permanent menu changes like that. But I assume they know what they're doing. Is that too much of an assumption to say I assume they know what they're doing when they go through and take things? I mean, you don't need to leave things on the menu just cause, I guess. So
yeah, I think there's a few things there. I think sometimes they're adjusting it just because maybe there's higher margin, or there could be supply chain around the ingredients that make it more profitable for them to make those changes. But I do have to know, Rob, on the goober pie or goober cake.
Peanut butter goober pie. Why is that so hard? Peanut butter goober pie.
Did it have goobers in it, like the goober candy in it? Is that why it was called goobers? I mean, what's the explanation of that?
I think there were actually maybe peanuts. I don't remember the goober part, but I feel like it was just a smooth, creamy peanut butter pie with like a chocolate shell around the outside. And it was way more than I should have had. And again, we'll talk to Stephanie later about proper proportions for human beings, but it was way more cake than I should have had. And it wasn't like I was going to put it in my pocket and take it to the Magic Kingdom to eat, to snack on later. Is it weird when they ask you if you want a box for your food at Disney parks?
Yeah.
I mean, what am I going to do with this? Like, I don't know.
Take it. Yeah.
I
Do you
guess
ever
so.
eat it back in the hotel room?
Yeah, rarely. Like, when are you really going to do that? Or why would you want to carry it around with you all day? I don't know. Let us
Yes.
know. Let us know what you guys think. I'm interested. Um, so let's move on to one of the highlights, I guess, of this show. One of the bigger topics of this show is the price increase. And I know I'm going to get comments later that's like, "Hey, Rob, it's a business, and they have to do like." Yeah, but also at the same time, some of the things that like we'll talk about at some point, the things they take away. And so they take away so many things. And to Rob's point about like market price and stuff like that about meals, they're tweaking these not for our benefit, but for theirs on the menus. They're not going to lower the prices. They're going to raise them. They're going to make the portion smaller, however they do that. And so with prices, the ticket prices, like, it seems like a really big hit, especially after we had just talked for the past couple of weeks about price increases, not only for Lightning Lane, the introduction of Premier Pass, all these other things, that it just seems like cash grab, cash grab, cash grab all at the same time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I want to hear what you guys think about that. But obviously, um, they did some price changes for the tickets, and at the Magic Kingdom, a ticket might cost you $199 on select dates, which we already experienced a couple weeks ago talking about Disneyland at some points is over $200 a ticket. And I used to try to justify this to people and say, well, it's all inclusive. You get in there and it's an entire day, and it's not like the State Fair or, or other places where you have to pay per ride. It's like it's all included. Not anymore. I mean, it's not quite the same thing anymore. Kamila, do you have thoughts on this one?
It's funny that you mentioned the state fair, because as someone who recently priced out trying to go to the state fair here in Arizona, which I think the last day was actually today, that was extremely expensive. And I was shocked at how much they wanted to charge, not only to get in, but to go on any ride and to get, I mean, it was just extremely expensive. But no, I feel like with Disney, we know the prices are going to continue to rise. Feels like lately it's been on at least an annual basis, if not more often than that. And I I feel like it does start to get to the point where I don't know. People will definitely start to reconsider their trips, reconsider what they do, where they stay, how often they go. And I think it's a fair point just to say we're paying more, but you know the Magical Express is gone. Like so many services that we used to have. I still remember the time when you could, like, Disney would get your luggage for you and take it, from the airport, and it would just like magically show up later to your room, or when you could check your bags at your Disney resort. Like, over the years, we really have lost so much just for the price of absolutely everything, from the food to the refillable resort mugs to your resort packages, tickets, annual passes. I mean, literally everything, the cost of everything has gone up, and we've lost a lot of the amenities that we used to be able to count on. And I know some of that is just, the natural business cycle, I suppose. But I'll be honest, it doesn't seem like Disney is paying its cast members more. So I don't think that's where a lot of the price is going to. You could say, well, maybe it's investment in their parks, but seems like, it's taken a lot to get anything, new or built. I don't know. It's definitely, every time the prices go up everywhere, you feel it, and it turns into, maybe I won't go every year or a couple times a year. Maybe I'll look at other things.
Yeah. One of the things that I know that we had a price discussion the last time the prices went up, and I know a lot of people said, well, just don't go. And Patrick said something at the time, which I think resonated with me pretty well, is I'm really too invested in Disney at this point. And for me, and I know Rob and Stephanie, you guys are in the same boat of DVC. Well, I'm kind of locked in the fact that I'm a DVC member. So then it's like annual passes have just gone up $100. The DVC discount went away, and so you pay the same price for adult and child for an annual pass. So Yeah, we could stop going. We could sell off DVC, but it's one of those things where you just have an investment in them, like you're you're emotionally invested in it as well. So I mean, it makes it tough when they make all these changes. Somebody said to me the other day, and I'm gonna throw this to you afterwards, Stephanie. Somebody said to me the other day that they had seen an article from somebody or like a post on Facebook that said $10,000 for a trip to Disney World for their family, they would be cheaper to go to Europe. And I was like, well, that can't be right. And so, again, since I book differently because I have an annual pass or because, we have DVC, I went and like pulled up like, okay, what if we went to Art of Animation for a week? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like $8,000 once you throw in ticket prices. And that was before these increases and hotel rooms. And then that's not even including food. So guess what? That's about accurate, and that's not even saying we're staying at the yacht club and eating every meal at the cake bake shop. That's just saying this is the price. So Stephanie, how do you feel about these increases? Annual passes are up, tickets are up, refillable mugs, all at the same time. It's almost just like you can't duck out of these hits.
Yeah, Kamila's right. It's been annual for a while now, and it's usually around that February mark. So get your trip in before then, folks. But yes, I think that they're trying to either hedge, all of this new expansion stuff that they're trying to go for, or maybe some of it, most of it might be inflationary. But still, it's a lot. And yeah, what you just described, Rob, is the sunk cost fallacy. We've already invested all of our time and our energy, and then you add on top of that nostalgia, and you want your kids growing up to have the same experience as you did. And you're right, Kamila, it's just not the same. You don't have that same level of value that you used to. And I don't know about, going to Europe. I just know it depends on how many kids you got, because it's going to be very expensive for me to fly anywhere. So.
Sunk cost fallacy. Yep. Nope. Yeah. That's about accurate. That's exactly what it is. I had this conversation recently with somebody who was talking about Hawaii and like how that may be like cheaper, especially because the DVC thing, right? The DVC
Alani.
Points from Alani, right? The DVC points for Alani are pretty cheap, but all of the people who bought into Alani use them at Florida, and so I can't get in. But I was like, the flights are what kills me flying from the East Coast out to Hawaii. That's going to be quite a push for me to try to do that. Rob, thoughts?
Yeah, so it depends on the product, right? So if you look at the cost of an AP, and I just bought my pass, I renewed my pass 2 days before the increase, so I was fortunate there.
Score.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but if you look at the actual value, right? The cost of going, especially those who live locally or within a reasonable drive, there is still a tremendous amount of value in an AP at Disney. If you think about the single cost to go to a play or to go to a hockey game or a baseball or a football game, those are $200 or $300, per ticket. So think of all the value you can get if you go to Disney for 10 or 20, or if you're a local 30 or 40 days a year. It actually is still pretty good value. And then I like the sunk cost fallacy, because those of us who are DVC, you think to yourself, oh, I go 2 or 3 weeks a year and I only have to pay this extra $74, and it's not a big deal.
Yes.
But I think all those like paper cuts do kind of add up. But in terms of the AP, I'm totally okay with the AP piece, because there's still a tremendous amount of value there.
Death from 1,000 cuts. Is that where you're going with the paper cut situation?
Yeah.
No, the sunk cost fallacy. You're absolutely right, Stephanie. Like, my sister-in-law will go, "Why would you go to fake France when you can go to real France?"
Yeah.
And it's like, because I already have started to invest in this one and going there, and we have our magic bands already, so we're ready to go. But kind of to close out on what Kamila said about this conversation, and sort of to speak to what you just said, Rob, is that I used to defend Disney all the time, because I'd say for a whole day, versus what you do for an NFL ticket, which is like about $100 at the time. Which, God, I haven't been to a game in a while, so I'm sure it's much more than
twice
that.
or three times that much now.
Right, exactly. So at the time, I was like, okay, because also at the time, Disney tickets were like $100. So I would be like, oh, for $100, you could go to an NFL game for 3 hours and watch it from, the nosebleeds, or you can go have an entire day in the park and everything's included, and you can do all the stuff that you want to do there, and it's a great value to me at that point. But as every little price thing inches up and inches up, you do come back, and it's surprising how quickly you get hit, because it's not all inclusive. It's that the pretzel is now $1 more than it was a year ago, and everything has raised up in price, and it's just how much can we continue to raise the price before it all breaks? And then at that point, what are they going to do? And I will cite the Star Cruiser as a perfect example of that, because they had raised the price to this point, and then they couldn't sustain it, and so then they were like, okay, well, we'll start giving discounts, and at that point it was too late. So I just, again, it hurts my heart when I have to then try to defend Disney to people, and they're like, oh, well, it's so expensive, and it's like, yeah, no, it is. You're right. I don't know how I continue to afford it, and probably shouldn't even pretend like I can. But anyway, let's talk about a super chat. We have a super chat from our good friend Jungle Cruiser. The Tiana deluge is real. Rode it yesterday, but got stuck in the tail of the monorail. They didn't open the door, and I got 1.5 lap ride. Wow! Oh my gosh, that is nuts. So Jungle Cruiser, we appreciate you. Thank you. Hopefully you've escaped and you're not messaging us from the tail of the monorail. Although there are worse places to be, probably.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about Tiana West, and I understand, Kamila, you may need to cover your ears a lot because you still haven't ridden. You still haven't ridden it yet, right? The one on the East Coast?
No,
is that correct?
I still haven't. That's true.
I'm so sorry. We will try to keep from spoilers, but if you guys are interested,
Okay.
you can go to wdwnt.com, and our folks have put together a scene-by-scene comparison to the new from the one on the West Coast to the one on the East Coast. And from everything I've seen, it seems like the one in California is better, which happens a lot. I mean, the Pirates of the Caribbean is better. There are a lot of them that are better. I think we can argue Haunted Mansion could go either way. But there are a lot of them that are just better attractions out in California. And with Tiana being open now, they're also the blessing of Bayou Country. I was talking to my son about this yesterday, and he said something about Critter Country. I went, it's Bayou Country. Sorry, you gotta break that in now. So Bayou Country, and we'll talk about the Country Bear, the Hungry Bear Jamboree in a second. But right now, there's the Raised Berets is finally open, thank goodness. And there's a lot of neat things that are happening there, and they've got the new sign up for Bayou Country. So Stephanie, you were just there and probably just missed the pun intended tail end of Critter Country.
Yeah, I really did. I got to do Winnie the Pooh, and all of that was great. But I will just say this: walking past it, and yes, the walls were still up. Some of the scrim and things like that were still around the Haunted Mansion and things on the all the construction there. But I will say it looks better. And I hate to say it like that, but I think maybe it's because the red clay appearance of the one in Florida was so much more of a contrast or something. But the one in Disneyland, and not to mention the fact that it makes more sense, right? Because you're in New Orleans Square, it just flows better and it looks like it fits in. It really did. And Raised Berets, very cute. I don't know how many people in New Orleans in the 1920s, really wore berets around, but I think that the attention to detail inside the store is a high contrast to what we have at Disney World, where they just really rushed it and just took art off of Etsy and hung it on the walls, and they need to go back and replace that.
Wow. Wow. Okay, shots fired. You don't love the Critter Co-op? You're not a fan of the fact that they just stripped the briars off, took out the rocking chairs, and called it a day? Wow. No. That's unreal. I don't know, but that's where I go to get my Tiana child-sized jumpsuit. So whenever you are around, you can get that. So,
Yes.
Rob, have you planned a trip to go see this one? I know you've done the Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Florida.
So we're going in April, and super excited. I saw a ride through. It does look a little better, and I like that configuration of the carts a little better than in Orlando. I'm super excited, and I think that they have a kind of a better vision of what the bayou would be around it eventually in the long term as well. So looking forward to taking a look.
Okay. And Kamila, since you don't want to probably have too many spoilers about Tiana's Bayou Adventure, talk to me about your feelings about this, about Bayou Country. How long is it going to take you to start calling it Bayou Country, or are you already there?
I mean, I feel like already the whole area was kind of like, I mean, it's literally like New Orleans Square, and it just kind of always felt like that. Like, I feel like even the Haunted Mansion kind of felt like it fit in. So I'm honestly just really excited that we're getting some walls down in that area. If you've been to that part of Disneyland, you know how congested that whole area can get. And with all the walls up, it's just kind of, it's in desperate need of some walls to come down. So I'm excited about that. I have some friends that I've had a chance to speak to who have actually ridden the ride on both coasts, and they really are preferring, it sounds like so far, the Disneyland version. So I'm excited to get a chance to see Bayou Country. I was just in Disneyland in September, but nothing was ready. So I'll have to see if I can find a reasonable time when the tickets are not so intense to go back, because that's the thing when you're not a pass holder, it's like $250 for that
Yeah.
park hopper one day.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yes, it is. Exactly. That's that's. I feel like that's the problem. And honestly, when I go through the gates and it's just me, and I look up at the price for the day of what the ticket is going to cost, part of me goes, well, I'm glad I'm a Magic Key holder. Then when the Magic Key bill comes around, I'm like, why am I a Magic Key holder? And then when I have to take my family out there, I'm like, why aren't you guys Magic Key holders? Why do I have to pay $250 a ticket? So there is literally no winning with me. I'm the worst. Yeah, honestly, like part of the thing is there's more space to fill, right? That one out in California is a little bit longer, so there's more space to fill. There was more there for Splash Mountain, so they had to do other things. The thing I was expecting to happen, which doesn't look like it is going to, is that there would be some thought after the one in Florida opened, and then that they would change some things in the one in California and then come back and fix it the way they did with Ariel. I don't know if you guys remember that there were some complaints about the Ariel attraction in Disneyland when they first opened it up, the Little Mermaid. There was like they didn't like the they called it ice cream hair that was twirled up when she was under the sea. So they fixed that, and they thought that when she was above the water, there should be real hair or wig hair, and they changed that. And then there was some animation concept thought process about it, and they changed all that for the one in Florida when they opened it up. And then they went back and changed it at DCA. So I'm not making that up, right? You guys remember when all of that stuff
Yeah.
happened? Cool. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about one of the other aspects of the massive, huge land expansion, I'm sure they'll call it, of Bayou Country, which is the Hungry Bear Jamboree. Which I think that our folks sort of slammed a little bit the fact that the music choices, which is aside from the food, we'll talk about the food and we'll talk about the music that they have around there. But the food, our folks are out there trying the food. Here's a look at some of the food options that they have. And you know what? It looks pretty good. The problem that I've run into with the Hungry Bear before was like the food was like pre-done. And so when I would buy it, like in the old days, like I'd get it already be sort of old or cold. So I'm hoping that since this is new and everything looks pretty fresh. But Stephanie, is this the kind of place you would take your family, or would you guys skip this and just hit the Blue Bayou?
No, we love a good barbecue. And honestly, they used to have, I don't know if they still will have this since it's opened, but the option to do the Fantasmic dining package there, which of course you don't have seating, you just have a reserved viewing area. But still, that's really nice, and it's a nicer, cheaper version than the Blue Bayou. So yeah, we would try it. We didn't get to, obviously, it was still closed when we were there. So maybe next time.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. Rob?
Yeah. Hey, I can never get into the Blue Bayou, so you guys have a trick to help me get that. That's great. Um, no, but the food looks good. I really like all the barbecue. I'm a huge fan of barbecue. I always do Regal Eagle when we were in Epcot. Um, I saw the funnel cake fries; those looked yummy. So no, definitely next time we're on the in Disneyland, we'll definitely swing by.
Okay. Yeah, and yes, I think Stephanie, you were talking about the dinner package, that they had a dinner package there for Fantasmic, and I remember getting that one when Fantasmic returned before it then caught fire and shut down again. Poor Fantasmic, man. We've got to talk about that
Right.
again tonight too. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of stuff on there that looks like it's going to be really good, and I love that option to not have to spend that much money. We actually did the Fantasmic dining package when my kids were younger at why am I forgetting the name of it? What's the place that's across from Pirates? That's not Blue Bayou. It's no one knows. Um,
Is it the place where they have the mint julep? I don't know.
yeah,
What's it called?
I'm drawing a blank. I want to say it's like the
Where
Bell
they sell the
something.
cookies?
Oh,
No, no, it's an actual
River Bell Terrace.
River Bell
Yes.
Terrace. Exactly.
Oh,
Yes,
Yes.
River Bell Terrace. Sorry, I don't know why I freaked out on that one, but I actually have it ingrained in my head because when we went there, we had planned it so far in advance so we could have the Fantasmic package. And when we got there, my kids were exhausted and they didn't want to have anything to do with the food there. And then I was
Oh no.
then we got our tickets, and then half of us went home and or went back to the hotel and
Oh.
didn't even get to enjoy it. So the best laid plans, I'm sure every
Yes.
parent out there has had them, where you like lay all this stuff out and you're like, we're gonna do the dessert party or we're gonna do something else late tonight. We've committed to it and we can't get out of it, and then they're like, something happens, and you're like, I gotta pivot. It's fine. I didn't need that money anyway. It's all good.
You're right. Sunk cost.
Uh, yeah, right. I mean, it is what it is. Let's talk about the Best Fest, which to me still, and I feel like most of us on
Yes.
here feel this way, is the Festival of the Arts. And the Festival of the Arts is coming back in 2025, and it's going to be January 17th through February 24th, aka Don't Blink or You Will Miss It. It's one of those things that's kind of crazy that it's the shortest fest. It's the best fest, but it's the shortest fest, and it's at a time that makes it very difficult to get there, in my opinion, if you're traveling like we do. So when you have the holidays and you take off of work for many weeks and off of school, and then school starts back, and then they're like, oh, they're beckoning you. They're like, oh, by the way, we're going to do this really cool thing in Florida. You guys should come. It's like I just already burned all of my goodwill to be able to, to spend time with the fam. So for locals, I'm sure this is a huge deal. But Stephanie, have you been, and would you plan a trip specifically to go to this one? And is it too short?
It is too short. Last question first. Number two, yes, we went to the very first one and we loved it, and we've been almost every year since. We're going again this year. And number three, it needs to be lengthened. So the reason I think they cut it off right at President's Day, like week, is because they're having the half marathon, the Princess Half Marathon, that following weekend. But wouldn't they just keep it through that weekend, because there's so many people coming in for that half marathon? I don't know why they don't do that. I feel like that's a missed opportunity because it is the best fest, even though the acronym is farts, as we like to point out, but it's still really good. Oh no. Rob.
Sorry, I disagree. I know that Patrick loves that one, but I feel like it demeans it.
Yes.
I feel like I like calling it the Best Fest. I feel like that's a more fun concept, is to call it the Best Fest. Let me also bring this up before we go to Kamila about her thoughts on it. Is that Communicore Hall was designed to be a festival center, and the concept art we got was surrounding the Festival of the Arts, and this beautiful layout with the mobiles on the ceiling and the little displays and presentations and all of that kind of thing has not come to be. It looks like a hospital cafeteria. So I don't know if it's going to look like this for Festival of the Arts. I hope so. I hope somebody got the memo about we were expecting it to be amazing for food and wine, and it wasn't. I don't know that they'll be able to get it together for Festival of the Holidays, but I think Festival of the Arts should look like this. So, Kamila, you've been for this one?
I have not. I am with you that for whatever reason, this has been a hard one to catch.
Yeah.
I have become pretty fond of going in November or very early December and catching all the Christmas um, things. And so it's hard to kind of turn around and get back out to Orlando for this one, but it does look like a lot of fun. I will say, I agree with you. I feel like what we got from the festival center, Communicore, whatever you want to call it, is not what was advertised, and certainly compared to what we lost. And I know, the days of like, I don't know, I guess old school interventions is kind of long gone, but I really was hoping we were going to get back to something like that. I still remember like the first time I ever tested out a, what do they call those? Like,
Virtual reality.
it's like the sky, like the two wheels, and you could like ride around on it.
Oh,
Like
oh yeah.
the place
Segways.
in malls, like
Segways.
yes, like I still remember my first time riding one of those was in there, and I don't know, I had so many hopes for what we could get. So I hope they come up with something, but do I think they're going to do it for this festival? Not really.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that our family used to love to do. There was the Great Piggy Bank Hunt or Adventure or something like that, and there was Where's the Fire, where you would walk around with the little flashlights to try to teams compete against each other. Sega had displays across the back of with
It was
games
so
that you could
cool.
stop and play, and as a parent you're going, you know what? We have Disney's Aladdin at home. You don't need to play it here. And it's like, yeah, but this is here. Let's play it here. And then the segues, my kids always wanted to do, but yeah, I think you had to be of a certain age to be able to do it. But I do love that Jay Ware in chat said Rob is going to keep reminding Disney about Communicore Hall. Keep up the good fight. Yeah. Yeah, because again, you sold us a bill of goods, and again, Kamila, you and I are partners on the whole like the fountain debacle of the barges. Like we were all in. We're like, wait, folks, Disney has a plan. They're gonna make this beautiful. It's gonna be out there in the middle, and Harmonious will be saved, and the
There'll
taco
be
barge thing.
fountains.
Oh, it's gonna be beautiful. Yeah, and it never happens. So I hold out hope, and then I got again a cafeteria that they had plenty of seating, and then the festival comes along, and then they take out half the seating and put in a Spirit Halloween style rack of merchandise. I
And
I
didn't didn't they tell us there were going to be like cooking demos? Like I could
Yes.
imagine, especially for food and wine, like you could bring in chefs, they could do cooking demo. You could even charge for that. Like I
Yep.
would pay for that. Do like a food and wine tasting. I mean, there's so much you could do, but I mean, you just didn't.
They really don't like to charge for things at Disney. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They like to offer those things for free. Rob, you're down
Especially
there shaking your
wine.
you're you're shaking your head, buddy. What's going on?
I was saying, don't give them any ideas on how to nickel and dime us for anything else. First of
That's
all,
true.
Rob, did I ever hear you talk about the at Communicore Hall? We used to be able to make the roller coaster. You can make your own roller coaster. Did you ever do that little tour demo? That was the coolest thing when I was a little Robbie. I
Wait,
used to go in there.
Disney Quest.
little
No,
Robbie,
it was like
adorable.
a little like pixelated screen, and you design your own roller coaster and ride through it. That was really cool.
Well, it
Not
was
sure.
the sum of all thrills. Is that the one you're talking about? The
I
sum of
don't
all
recall
thrills.
it.
So there was a make your own virtual space mountain at Disney Quest. That's the one where
Okay.
you planned your thing and then you got into a capsule and then they shook the crap out of you.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so that was that one. This one, it's that Koku arm or whatever that they would get you on. It was called
No,
the
it's
sum of all
literally
thrills.
just a screen, a black and white screen, and you would design what you want your roller coaster to be, and it would roll you through the roller coaster.
What you got in your
That
cup
might be
tonight, Rob?
before your time.
There needs
But
to
anyway,
be
I
innovation
think
at
I
Epcot.
think Festival of the
Yes.
Arts
Yes.
is an opportunity for Disney to show us what they can actually do there. They made all these huge commitments around how this new space was going to make some of these festivals be amazing. I think they heard loud and clear that it was a disappointment for food and wine, and maybe we're going to be surprised here. Maybe we're going to be surprised
Well, again,
there.
hearts have been broken too many times, but I will try to keep the faith, my friend. Let's talk about Phantasmic. Poor Phantasmic. Fantasmic. So one thing that came up was Disneyland is going to be cutting back the amount of performances they have. They're going to be greatly reduced during the holiday season, which doesn't seem like the smartest thing, but it could be because of capacity, and that's a really tight space around there, and maybe they're afraid of that being a thing. But the tragedy this time happened not on the East Coast, or not on the West Coast, but on the East Coast, where two barges collided during the show. And it was, I think, Beauty and the Beast, and was it the aerial float? So there's one.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they crash into each other. And honestly, and Stephanie, I'll throw this to you. You and I have talked about this before. The stuff with like where Mickey and the fireworks messed up. The Mickey handled that like a champ.
Yes.
And so well, like played off the thing perfectly to the point where it's like, had we not had video proof of it, most of America would have gone on without paying any attention to it, but not us. We had to go after them. But in this particular case, you could see these cast members were absolutely stunned at what was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you sit there and you watch those barges and you think, how are they not crashing? Like, I don't know how this is it on a track? What's happening here? And so, yeah, Belle handled that just like a pro. I mean, she really did. She held her position down, made sure that when it was okay, she was able to stand up. How the Beast did not fall down, I don't know. But yeah, good for him. Good for both of them, actually. They did an excellent job.
Yeah, and again, it feels like it's a little bit cursed, honestly, because I don't remember hearing, and I'm trying to think of where else we would hear it. I mean, Magic Happens, we heard like, okay, the Frozen float crashed into like took a corner hard or something like that, but everything else seemed to be okay with that one. The biggest problem with the Phantasmic, I mean not Phantasmic, the Magic Happens was the light poles that kept falling, which didn't happen during the parade. So yeah, that was definitely a thing. Kamila, did you watch this and the video? Did you see it?
Yes, and I just couldn't believe poor Belle fell. Like I was like, oh my god. I just can only imagine like watching it live. You're like, oh no. But really, it's just like, how does that happen? And I guess I don't know. Like, are they really floating free, or is there a track underneath? Like, I don't know. But I was like, just never occurred to me that could happen. And I remember when I was first watching it, I didn't really know like what I was watching. But like literally to see poor Belle in her like little dress and she fell, I was like, oh no. But yeah, I mean, they handled it like pros. It was really just like, how does that happen? But you did great, Belle. But I'm so sad that she fell.
Yeah, Belle fell. Dr. Seuss
In
at
her
its
dress.
finest.
I was like, no, that can't happen.
Yeah, but but you guys are right. Like again, I think that the interesting thing is that how quickly they recovered. We know that there were no injuries, so that's good. But to your point, Stephanie, like how does this not happen more often? Like I don't know if they're not on tracks, right? Because that would be too difficult to pull off. So, and then the monkeys on their floats, they jump up and down all the time. I could see those kind of getting off kilter a little bit, but she's going to be a little bit like PTSD the next time she's on that raft. And but Belle's a champ. Yeah, she she handles it like a champ. Let's move on to Epic Universe, because Epic Universe has been in our it's been in our hearts and minds as Disney fans as well. We are also Universal fans, and we've been anxiously awaiting this park. I think we all have. I will go around the panel and find out. But the Epic Universe tickets went on sale this week on Tuesday. Of course, everyone from the blog was waiting by their phones starting at like 2 a.m. to make sure to log on and buy tickets. And the way that the tickets worked was you on Tuesday had to buy a complete package. You couldn't just buy a ticket to get into Universal's Epic Universe, which is kind of smart. And I think last week I may have made this comparison to remembering when like PlayStation 3s were super hot and GameStop would not sell you just a PS3. They would have to sell you a kit, which would include, or a package, which would include 5 games they were trying to unload and 2 extra controllers you didn't want and all kinds of other things. So it's like they're not price gouging, they're just adding things to it. Limited time magic, if you will. But that's what they're doing at Epic. They're like, hey, we've got this hot property. It's going to open on May 22nd, 2025. Everybody's going to want to go, but we're not going to have capacity for everybody. But what if we sold you a package that said you can buy a 3-day ticket? Only one of those days can you come to Epic Universe. The other 2 days, we don't care where you go. Just don't come to Epic Universe. It was an interesting thing. So then for pass holders, they did a deal on Thursday, which sold out very quickly, which was a 1-day pass to Universal's Epic Universe, and that was nice. It was nice that they offered that to pass holders to be able to do it. I was very tempted to try to jump on and do it. Problem is, I'm the only pass holder in the family, so I would have just had to say, "See you guys. I'm going to Epic Universe without you," because it was. I think you had to be a pass holder to get 1 ticket. So Kamila, are you surprised at the way they packaged all this together? And do you think that that the excitement's going to continue for Epic Universe to the point where they keep this?
Yeah, I mean, Universal has come out and said for a while that if you want to be among the first to go, you have to do this package where essentially it has to be at least a 3-day ticket. Only one of those days will you be able to spend at Epic Universe. So they're kind of forcing you more or less to also go to Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios and to pay for that, as well as your stay at one of their hotels. I'm surprised at how little pushback they received for this, but I mean, you've got to love it for Universal. They seem to be able to get away with absolutely anything, and no one is really saying anything. But I also understand, I guess, why they would do it this way. I do think it's kind of a congrats in a way for Universal, because they have really, for a long time, wanted to be seen as a week-long vacation destination, just like Disney. They very much see themselves as having 4 parks that you can visit, with Volcano Bay being that 4th park. And I will say, as someone who, until the last few years, never really thought about staying on Universal property, it was always, I'm going to Disney, but I'll spend 1 day at Universal and I'll do the park to park. I do think this is going to represent a big shift in how you visit Orlando for those of us who are not locals and who we have to get on a plane to make it down there. I do think this now means you're going to want to spend more time at Universal, and you're probably going to get more comfortable with the idea of staying on property when you visit. And that is something Universal has been working towards for a number of years, well before Epic Universe was ever even really in the picture. So this is getting them to where they want to be. They really see themselves as, you're going to Orlando to go to Universal. We're not just that place that you are stopping on the way. I'm not surprised by the sellout. I think the tickets went on sale at like 2:30 a.m. Pacific time, which was insane. And honestly, by the time I got up for the day, they were sold out. So I think in just a few hours they were sold out. But it sounds like, from what I saw and just talking to other agents, the people who wanted to, be among the first to get in and to get the days that they wanted, they were able to. Obviously you had to book it as a package and, buy the 3 days of tickets and all of that. But I mean, kudos to Universal. It's great to be them right now, because you can pretty much do what you want and no one is really saying anything.
Yeah, I was looking in the I was looking in the chat, and they were I think it was Sandy was saying, I just want to go to Super Nintendo World and be done. Which you can go to the one in Hollywood, but it's not going to be as nice as the one that's coming to Florida, because it's also, the one in Florida also has Donkey Kong, and it also has the Yoshi ride. So I think it's going to be the best of all the Nintendo lands, and so it's going to be interesting to see what lands people come out of this loving, because it looks like they have something sort of for everybody. The Celestial Park when you walk in, and then the portals to to the Universal Monsters, to Harry Potter, to Super Nintendo, and How to Train Your Dragon, which to me is the wild card there. Like, part of me is like, how did you choose that? And the other part of me is looking at it going, that looks really cool. I want to go there and do that one. So the other thing that's interesting about this one is Universal pass holders got communications about Epic Universe tickets that there would be a pass holder soft opening opportunity. Now, I think most of the people who were on there buying out, I'm making this up maybe, but I feel like a lot of the people who wanted to be there day one are like the bloggers and those type of people who are like, I just, I need to be there with my cell phone on a gimbal to show everybody this park and be the first one in there to do it. Soft opening is going to really kind of kick that to the side, I think. So what are your thoughts on all this, Stephanie?
Yeah, I completely agree with you because, when the pandemic opened, it was only they reopened Disney, but it was for cast members and their family. And so anybody that was a friend of a cast member was in there with everything. Look at how it's walking around Disney World with nothing, Magic Kingdom. There's nobody here. So yeah, I definitely think that's going to like damper, put a damper on things for that opening day. But there is something to be said about going on opening day. Number one, to say historically you were there when it opened, that kind of thing. But also, there might be some things that are offered on opening day that they decide don't work and they're going to take them out later on. I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up going maybe, 4 or 5 months later and go during, October or something like that. I might not be able to see, one of the, if they change a show or they change some offering that they don't have anymore after opening day. But yeah, I definitely think that there's something to be said for going, but at the same time, you might save some money. I don't know. See what they save 6 months later.
Yeah. Rob, you're a West Coast guy. So when you go to Florida, how much of your time do you usually spend at Universal? And will, like, to Kamala's point, do you think that'll change once this opens?
It definitely will. Actually, I was just talking to my wife a little bit earlier. I'm like, maybe we schedule another trip, and the trip is a trip to Universal. We could still use our DVC points, although I do want to stay at that Helios Grand Hotel. So we might do something, and it would be a split. But I won't, even though I'm kind of locked into going because of the DVC points, every trip may not be exclusively staying at Disney World.
Yeah, I told this story many times before, but when the pandemic was happening and we had our DVC points, we actually went, and when the DVC opened up, I think it was Springs opened first, and then DVC hotels opened up, and then the rest of the hotels, or some of the hotels, and then the parks. And so we showed up on the first day of DVC's opening, and the security guard said to me, "Why are you here?"
Yes.
He's like, I'm, we're great, we're happy to see you, but like, why are you here? Like, the parks aren't open. And it was almost like a little bit hard to go, well, Universal is, so we're just gonna stay here,
Right.
but we're gonna go to Universal. And that's what we did. So, I mean, I agree that is still an option. Like, like we were talking about and I wrote it down, sunk cost fallacy. That even though you have DVC doesn't mean you couldn't like decide, oh, you know what, let me just not buy an annual pass for Disney and buy one for Universal, stay at Disney, have that magical experience, but then also spend my time over.
But I will say this oh, I'm sorry.
You go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say to Kamila's earlier point about the Universal hotels, like they are so thematic. They have, actually themed guest rooms that you can purchase. Not all the rooms are themed, not like the new contemporary rooms. But anyway, they have certain ones that are like kids suites and that kind of thing that have different theming. And they're so highly themed. It puts, yes, Despicable Me. It puts you back in that 90s feel, which, come on, Disney, you're getting rid of all of that to the point of the new island tower or what have you.
How dare you? How dare you
But I
about
think
the
people,
Island Tower?
I think people like that.
All right, Rob, go.
One thing I will say is now that they got rid of Magic Express, I now rent a car every time I go. And as so, I'm not locked into just being on Disney property. It's really simple for me to jump in my car and drive over to Epic Universe. So that's another thing that people need to think about.
Haha, Disney, joke's on you. You got rid of Magical Express. Now Rob can go anywhere he wants.
And bring my money with me. That's the more important part,
No.
right?
That's right.
How was your Disney trip? Well, I went to SeaWorld and I went to iDrive. I went to the world's largest McDonald's and I didn't go to Disney at all. Um, and it's because of the Magical Express being gone. You know, that was one of the things I was going to talk about earlier is that when we were talking, and Kamila, I think you were talking about that too, all the things they took away. It's like, yeah, they did take away magic bands and they took away, you know, or free magic bands and they took away the Magical Express and they took away all of the, like a lot of the parcel pickups from the resorts. I'm not sure if
Yes.
that's back yet, things like that. So there was a lot of things that went away and we all blame Chapek for that, right? Still those things are going on and we haven't gotten all of it back. We did get back, it's very important to note, we did get back free parking at the resorts and I'm sure they raised the price of the hotel to compensate for that, which is like
Yes.
fine. Like what I don't know, but also now they've raised the valet parking at the resorts, which is why I never valet park my car or Rob's rental when we go and hang out more than people know. Let's talk about the resort roundup. So there was a lot of things in the resorts that happened this week. Apparently, you know, we've talked about. I think we talked about it last week that the construction cranes have hit over at Reflections, and then we got the Port Orleans French Quarter rooms are being refurbished. The Bay Lake Tower rooms are going to be refurbished. I feel like there are multiple rooms being refurbished on grounds at any given time, which is crazy to me because I always feel like it's hard to get in. But to talk about the tower, the Moana splash pad at Disney's Vacation Club Tower was revealed on October 22nd. Wait a minute, what else happened on October 22nd? Epic Universe tickets went on sale. So they were like, what have we got? What have we got? Uncover Moana. Let's do that. Because there is so much hate on Twitter about the fact that 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 people have noted that anytime Universal makes a big speech or a big announcement about anything epic, they go, look at this new bus wrap. I mean,
Yes.
that's
I
like
saw
literally a
that
thing that,
tweet from Universal.
yeah. Now again,
Brutal.
Kamila,
So
you're
good.
you're with me on the whole idea of wait and until I get to judge it myself before I hate on something. How are you feeling about the Island Tower now that Moana's been unveiled? I'm sure you're okay with it now, right?
Honestly, listen, I am not having issues with the Island Tower. I'm interested. Like, I feel like, whereas I'm not as interested personally in wanting to stay at Poly in its current state, the Island Tower might be a little bit more my vibe. But, you know, I've made mistakes before because I did not like my stay at the Riviera. And I
Oh,
thought that would be, you know, a little updated and nicer. And I hated it. It had no character or personality. But so I don't know, but I do think the Moana splash pad looks very cute. And I will also just say, I am so thankful and happy to hear that Bay Lake Tower is getting some attention because it desperately needs it.
Yeah. Okay. It's probably going to get Ratatouille theming. Are you okay with that? I'm
ugh.
just kidding.
Yes. Honestly, I love Chez Remy.
I I love The Incredibles. The Incredibles just celebrated 20 years, which is hard to imagine this past week. But also, I don't need it at the Contemporary. The Contemporary should be the theme of the Contemporary Resort should be the Contemporary Resort. Like that's all you need. And the same thing with Polynesian. It doesn't need to for me. Now maybe the tower, because the tower I have no history with, but the rest of it doesn't need to be Stitch and Moana. I love them. I love those pieces, but I think it could just be the Polynesian. The Grand Floridian can just be the Grand Floridian, Stephanie, as opposed to what the 900 other IPs that they've got in there between the Enchanted Rose and the what used to be the Alice Tea and all those kind of things.
Nope.
Am I missing something, or have they not shown renders of what the new tower, the new rooms at Bay Lake Tower are going to look like?
Oh, of Bay Lake? I
I
don't
don't
know.
have.
Have we seen
Yeah,
that?
I was searching for them because you're right, they do desperately need a remodel, but you know Disney usually makes a big deal out of that kind of stuff, so it kind of makes me nervous that they haven't put out a lot of these and showed renderings what the new rooms, and they've started construction, right? Some of the higher level rooms have already started construction, but they haven't showed. I haven't seen renderings of them.
Yeah, you know what? They used to do a thing where they would actually build a new room, and this was back, I guess, before CAD. I don't know, but they would actually build a room out
Mhm.
on property. It used to happen, I think, at Caribbean Beach. In the back, they would have a room, and they would mock it up, and then have like people come and actors and stand in it, and then like green screen out the back of the place, and they have a physical space so you could see what all of that was going to look like. And now they do the renderings. But you're right, I don't know that I've seen a rendering of this one yet. um, yeah. Anyway, let's we're running out of time. Let's move on. I was going to talk about Beyond Big Thunder, but that's not really. There's really nothing to tell yet, other than the fact that they've started construction at the Magic Kingdom. And I know that Josh Jamaro told us when he was telling us at this year's D23, no more blue sky. Everything is already shovels in the ground. It wasn't yet, but now there's a big scrim, so we can talk about that. What I did want to talk about is there is a Spider-Man movie coming out. They just announced for 2027, I think it is, of Spider-Man. I think that's right. For Spider-Man, the Tom Holland series is going to be getting a new movie in July. I think it's 2026 or 2027, but it's gonna be a while. Um, Still, there's a great show, I feel like is a great show at Avengers Campus, where they have Spider-Man and a stuntronic that they've spent all of this money developing and designing. And Spider-Man's out there and he's talking about doing a test, and then he goes back and then he flies over Avengers Campus, and as long as he doesn't hit a wall, he lands safely. He comes out, he comes down, he does his meet and greet. This was one of several shows. Now, a lot of the stuff, kind of like we talked about at the top of the show, a lot of the stuff has been cut way, way back, including entertainment. This one apparently is going to be down. This is a rumor at this point, but we've got pretty good confirmation this is going to go away for them to make way for them to build out the new pieces of Avengers Campus. But did you guys? I know Stephanie, you were just there. Did you see this show? I love this show. This to me gives life to Avengers Campus. You already took away
Yes.
Doctor Strange. Now you're going to take away this. This seems like too much.
Yes, 100%. It was the only thing that my kids watched and gave an audible gasp. Like they were like, "This is so cool." My son turns around, and he said that was really cool. And we caught maybe like the two-thirds of it. We didn't even see the very beginning, but even still, there was so much acrobatics, and then how Spidey crawls on the wall. Even it was so neat. It will be dead. I'm just saying. The Avengers Campus does not have any kinetic energy apart from tower, opening and closing over there, the Guardians of the Galaxy. But at one point it closed so that it would, go ahead and switch over to After Dark, Monsters After Dark. And it was about an hour and there was nothing happening. And we just sat there at Pim's Test Kitchen eating our giant pretzel and we're going, there's nothing going on. Now we did see Star-Lord Steve. I thought about you, Rob. He was a little bit long in the tooth, but he is the real Star-Lord Steve or whatever. And so, he just played him in the movie. But yes,
It's
I
so
completely
bad.
agree. They don't have anything else going on, and they need that. They need that as a people eater, but they also need it as kinetic energy in that area.
Yeah, honestly, like I loved the very first time I went to Avengers Campus and sat at Pem's Test Kitchen, and then all of a sudden you see Black Panther up on the building and he's doing something, and then you see the Dora Milaje come out and do a show there. Or there was a bit during Secret Invasion. Don't ever watch that show where you had you had Nick Fury come out and like teach an espionage lesson in the wide open, like you do, I guess.
Right.
But I mean, there's so many of those things that just seem like we should have more there, not less. And I think a lot of people, and
Yes.
our article says that this is going away and it's the worst land. I don't think it's the worst land, but also I look forward to them expanding it. But it was really good when there was entertainment. So, Kamila, do you have any
Yes.
thoughts on this one too?
I just think it's kind of what's scary a little bit about how they built Avengers Campus is it's very reliant on Disney paying for the actors and the live entertainment and the characters. And they've shown that despite all of the local talent, you're right there in Hollywood or near it, that they're not always willing to invest in that area. And I completely agree with Stephanie. It needs it. And if it doesn't have it, you just kind of have, it looks cool, but it needs Spider-Man to be, right there, and Loki to be over there, and like it needs all of that to work.
Yeah. By the way, 2026 is when the Spider-Man movie comes out. So, and again, I'm excited about that franchise, and so I love Spider-Man. So I really love that show. But I get what you're saying. Like that's what holds that land together, is the fact that it's living and breathing Avengers campus. It's not just like Avengers Land. It's Avengers Campus, because there's supposed to be things going on there. There's supposed to be fights with Taskmaster, and there's supposed to be all that stuff happening. And I loved it when after every Disney Plus premiere, the next day you would have Moon Knight in there, or you would have, somebody from Loki in there. That was really cool to see. Rob, anything on this before we move on?
Just one thing that I want to mention is that the timing is kind of interesting, right? Because we know that that Marvel's moving to this new phase. In fact, the Spider-Man movie is coming out just a few months after the new Doomsday movie is out. That's going to be like the kickoff to the next chapter of Marvel. So, being optimistic, perhaps it's more about transitioning the park and updating the park or that campus for this next phase of what Marvel has going on.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So here comes Battle World.
What?
Battle. You're not familiar? That the whole story of this is it moves into the phase of the Avengers Battle World with Doctor Doom.
I gotcha.
And
okay.
That's the next big phase. So.
Well, let's just redo the whole land. Oh wait, they are. Honestly, yeah. And the funny part about that is we're moving into the era of Doctor Doom, and they're going to frantically start building an attraction for Thanos.
Right.
So good call on that. Anyway, the final thought on our final show topic tonight was for those of you who didn't see Milton destroy the Tropicana field where the Tampa Bay Devil Rays play baseball. It ripped it up. Now it wasn't. I mean, it was what, a canvas type roof. So, but I mean, it just destroyed it. They needed a place to play, and Disney was like, "Oh, hey, we got a bunch of baseball fields. You all should come out here." So they are considering Walt Disney World for their 2025 season. I love this idea. They used to do, I think the Braves used to do spring training there, and it's like, this is a huge area. And I talked about this when I did my Run Disney thing, is this is a huge area of Disney. There's a lot of property, and I know they bring, high school teams and such out here to do, soccer tournaments and stuff like that. But I love the idea of making this more of a destination, because you've used up all of this land here to make it a place where people can go out more. Because the only time I've ever been, literally, and I'm a huge fan and I worked there, the only time I've ever been was to pick up my race bib for that race. That was literally the only time that I've been there. So, Stephanie, have you been to the ESPN Wide World of Sports, and what do you think about the idea of bringing the baseball here?
Yes, as a baseball mom, for sure. My son and my husband will be there. What they need is a Marucci training academy kind of area. I don't know exactly what they call it, but because then you could charge boys that are on vacation. They could keep up their baseball skills, and they could go there for batting practice while they're on vacation. But anyway, so bring that next, Disney. But I do think that this is a great idea, because like you said, the Braves did their spring training there. Let's do some games. Let's have people come in for that too. And yeah, we were there a couple of times for the kids races. It's a very large area, and there's restaurants and everything too.
Yeah. Why do you guys keep asking for Disney to charge for things? Like, literally our topic is that they're asking us to spend too much money, and you're like, oh, Disney could charge to bring kids there, and Disney could charge for, stop it. Kamila?
I mean, to be fair, Disney does have the water and sports ticket as an add-on, and so you could, include these different options as part of the sports, which I feel like is what they used to do. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I quoted a water and sports ticket, but the thought was, like, especially back when you had like the NBA experience, you could have this additional access to not only the water parks, but also to these, other sports experiences. And so, baseball would fit right in. I think it's a great idea to have the Rays play. It's a great facility. I've only been because of Run Disney, but I mean, even I was like, I could imagine you're doing a more of a true resort stay, and what a fun idea to like go catch a ball game. I don't know, that just feels like it fits right in. So I say do it.
No, I agree, and like I see this is how what a lack of vision I had with this, because I was like, oh well, that'll be great for Tampa Devil Rays fans, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, what if my team comes to play them at Disney and I happen to be there at that time? Because Dawn was saying would love that would mean that the Sox would play in Walt Disney World, which is my own personal utopia. I mean. Dawn, Red Sox, really? All right. But yeah, I think that's true. It's like a lot of people who go down might want to, like, who are big golf enthusiasts, might want to play golf while they're at Disney World, best of both worlds. Or if you're a huge Cirque fan, you can do both at the same time while you're there. And this would be something else that, like, and again, the baseball season is a million years long. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for people to come down and see their favorite teams play. I'm a Nats fan. That's my heartbreak to deal with. But go Dodgers. That's what I'm saying for this one. I don't for this particular series. I don't know. Rob, final thoughts on this before we go?
Yeah, so I think it's obviously it was a terrible situation that happened. It's great that there's a facility that's relatively close by, that some of their fans can come and watch it. The one thing I would just warn everyone on is that Rays are going to continue to expect to make the same amount of money they made at their previous facility, and then Disney's going to want to make a markup, right? So, while it's going to be great that it's in Orlando at Disney, I would expect the price of the average ticket to be higher than it was when they were playing in, it's really Sarasota, right, I believe. But so anyway, there's pros and cons there.
Again, you're giving Disney more ideas. Raise the ticket prices, he says. Make it more expensive, he says. Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being with us. We appreciate you being with us every Sunday night on ParksCenter. Just a reminder that we also have Deep in the Plus every Wednesday night. That is a show where we go deep into the Disney Plus catalog and we find a Disney movie or TV show and talk about it. And we're doing spooky season. So this is what we've done so far. We did Girl vs. Monster, Blackbeard's Ghost, Edward Scissorhands. Last week we did a Mickey Mouse Halloween Spooktacular. And this coming Wednesday we're going to be doing Emperor's New Groove and then finishing it off on November 6th with Agatha House of Harkness Season 1. Why are you laughing, Stephanie?
Oh, just the October 30th.
Oh, yes, because I'm getting a lot of flack because Emperor's New Groove isn't spooky. Right. That's really more of a placement of I want to talk about that one, and so that's why it's there. But, I mean, there's Dark Magic. Yzma's a villain? I don't know. We've got a lot of opportunities there to do that one. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, thank you to our WIGS members. We love our WIGS, the WDWNT Interglobe Society. Thank you guys for being part of the family. We appreciate you. We have a quick post show after this. But again, to the panel, thank you guys. Stephanie, Kamila, thank you so much for coordinating your outfits again. We appreciate it. Rob, we'll do better next time. But have a great week. Be safe out there. Go vote. Do that. Make that happen. And we will see you next time. Beautiful as always. You guys just nail it.
Can never tell. Am I early or am I late? I can't tell.
Exactly. You're exactly where you need to be.
You're exactly perfect.
Yeah, exactly. You don't